Perfect. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm Harvey Ferdman. I'm president of the Maryland Heights Township Democratic Club. And we have on line here with us the president of the Creve Coeur Township Democratic Club, Sydney Jackson. Sydney, if you want to say hello or unmute for a second, let people hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our meeting this evening.
And we have a number of other distinguished folks on here. I see folks who have run for office. I see folks who have held office. I see our township, Maryland Heights Township committee people, Dave and Dale Steinberg. Representative Paula Brown, welcome. Former State Representative Sue Meredith, welcome. City Council in Creve Coeur, Nicole Greer, correct?
Correct. Good evening.
Good evening. Anyone who I have missed who is holding office, has held office, and of course, Melissa Greenstein, who recently ran for office. Thank you.
You have Florence Pullen. You have Florence Pullen, former president of Creve Coeur Township.
Yes, welcome, Florence.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll get started with a Pledge of Allegiance. If I can get this to work properly, we shall see. I think you guys are seeing the flag right now.
Yep.
Excellent, okay. If you'll join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, equal, liberty, and justice for all. And there's a nice shot of the moon, and it looks like we're going to be going back there. Should be very interesting. Okay. I have no announcements at this time. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to make before we get to our program? Okay. Hearing none, we shall move on. Our speakers tonight are two very distinguished legislators, both who happen to go by Representative Brown. We have Representative Richard Brown, who is the Assistant Minority Floor Leader, which basically, if the Democrats were in the majority, he would be the Assistant Speaker to the House. It's a very important position. And we have Representative Paula Brown, who you're all very familiar with, who holds a number of important committee positions and has done a wonderful job for us in office since 2018. Richard was elected in 2016 and lives in the Kansas City area, so it's someone that we're not necessarily that familiar with, so we welcome the opportunity to get to know him and to hear about what our legislative initiatives are coming up this year. And one more thing, it's Martin Luther King Day, and I know all of you, have fond memories of his work, of the work of all the communities that came together with his leadership. Here's some important quotes. Let us realize the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. The others you can read for yourself, except for this last one. And in our Missouri legislature, where we have had a persistent Republican majority for a number of years, keep in mind it has not always been that way. We had not only a Democratic majority in the past, we also had all statewide office holders being Democrats when Chris Koster was around. So I think this is really important. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. And we have, again, a number of people on board here who have run for office, who have held office, and I applaud all of you. And we have our two legislators today who are working hard, despite being in the minority, to move Missouri forward. So with that, I think Representative Richard Brown, if you would like to go first, and then we'll also have time for questions and answers.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for taking time on this evening to be here with us. First thing I'd like to say is I'd like to compliment my colleague, Representative Paula Brown. She has done a fabulous job when, ever since she's come into the House. She came in the term after I was first elected. And, I always told Paula when she got there, I said, Paula, you'll find your way through the House. You'll find your area of expertise. And let me tell you something. She has taken the lead on education in Jefferson City. She is respected by her colleagues on both sides of the aisle, okay? And she is relied heavily upon when it comes to making educational decisions. She's done an outstanding job, she doesn't say much about what she does, so I'm going to toot her horn for her, okay? She's just done a fascinating job down there, and I'm so glad that she is part of our caucus, and I hope that she will continue to be a part of the caucus. Representative Brown, thank you so much for your contributions. You do a fabulous job down there.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So again, I'm Representative Richard Brown. I'm out of Kansas City. I serve parts of Southeast Kansas City. I've got 3 school districts in my district, the Raytown School District, the Center School District, and Kansas City, Missouri Public Schools as well. This is my third term, or excuse me, my 4th term. Wow, that was fast. This is my final term. I've been the Assistant Minority Leader now. This is my 2nd term. And I'm thankful for the trust that my colleagues have put into me to do this. While I was listening to what Harvey was saying about how the offices have changed, where the Republicans have gained a control in the state. And it wasn't that long ago where Democrats enjoyed being in the majority. Back when I was a younger man in graduate school, I did my internship in the House. And so I got to see firsthand what it was like, when Bob Griffin was the Speaker of the House, and how things were down there, as they say, the good old days. One of the things that I am realizing about our state, because I've done a lot of travel, as before the meeting started, for those of you that were already on the call, I talked about how this summer, from the time we got out of session until Election Day, I traveled the state of Missouri. Now, I went into a lot of the rural areas, especially in northern Missouri, U.S. House District number 6, okay, because it covers all of northern Missouri, everything north of 36, from Kansas to Iowa, over to Illinois. So it only made sense to try to concentrate in that area. And I can tell you this, there are Democrats out there, contrary to what people believe, okay? There's a lot of Democrats out there. The problem is you really don't see a lot of elected Democrats. Now notice what I just said. I said a lot of elected Democrats, because there are elected Democrats in those areas, okay? It's a matter of finding good candidates, okay? Finding people that are trusted in the community, they have a reputation, and people will vote for them. As I talked with a lot of folks in those areas, the thing that they would always tell me is they would say, well, if you were to run up here, I would vote for you. And I explained to them that's because you're a Democrat. That's why you would vote for me. Okay, you're a Democrat and you don't even know it, right? And a lot of folks, they vote independent. But the thing that we have to do is we have to go to these people, okay? They don't have elected folks on the state level in the rural areas. We have to actually make a concerted effort to reach out to get to know these people to kind of erase that rural urban divide. I believe we could, we're within percentage points in a lot of areas of the state of doing that. We saw some growth in the House this year. We saw 3 new seats come into play. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, to some people, but that was huge for Missouri. It was really huge that we picked those seats up. And, we picked up 2 in Columbia and 1 in Springfield. So we've got 3 seats in Springfield now and 4 in Columbia. That's huge. Whereas last time we only had one seat in Columbia and 2 seats in Springfield. So we're showing some growth there. I'm not sure exactly what all we want to talk about when it comes to the House. My colleague is on here. I don't like to always talk about everything because sometimes you take things away from someone who wants to speak. So I'm gonna let Paula talk about some of the things within the House. But I will tell you there are 3 main things that we are trying to focus on as House Democrats. Number 1, we want to save lives, and we'll talk about that. 2, we want to invest in Missourians. Now, you notice I didn't say invest in Missouri. I said we want to invest in Missourians. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And the 3rd thing that we want to try to do is we want to protect democracy. And basically that boils down to the ballot initiative process, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm going to hand it off right now to my colleague, Paula. It's all yours.
Thank you, Richard. Hi, everybody. It's good to see everybody tonight. I'm going to do a little bragging on Richard. I think Richard traveled the state this last election season and knocked doors for probably 80 candidates. He was everywhere, helping people out, getting on the doors. I'd like to know, Richard, how many doors did you knock this year? Do you know?
I have no idea. I knocked a lot of doors, but I did get bit only once. Only one dog got me, so did all right.
I was really lucky this year. I didn't have an opponent, so I knocked doors for several of our colleagues here in St. Louis. And so that was a lot of fun. I can brag that I did not get bit at all. So Richard talked about our 3 main focuses, and he's going to step in and tell you a little more about that later. I will say to you, I am back as ranking member on education, ranking member on conservation. I'm still on the ethics committee, and I still sit on utilities. So I am sort of right where I was. I'm continuing my leadership on those 2 committees. I'm pretty excited. I don't know if you all know that last year we were able to get that lead out of water in schools bill passed with 27 million to back it up. So schools didn't have any unfunded mandates. So that was really exciting for us last year. There are a lot of other good things. It was a good year for Democrats. We are looking to have a good year this year with the new Speaker of the House. Leadership objectives, I think, have changed a little. I'm hoping that we're all reaching across the island doing good things for Missourians, like Richard said, Missourians. With that, Richard, I'd really like you to talk about that piece specifically, about what we're going to be doing for Missourians this year.
So as you notice, as I mentioned when we began, I said we're going to try to improve the lives of Missourians. Now, last year we had a tax cut that we went to a special session for. Really, it only benefited rich folks, okay? There was minimal impact for everyday working people. We want something that's a little bit more meaningful. We have looked at things like trying to eliminate the tax on food. Everybody buys groceries. My goodness. I mean, everybody's talking about the price of eggs right now. When you look at eggs, not only are we talking about those scrambled and boiled eggs that you're eating, but think about cakes, and baked goods, and other things that they use eggs for. It's going to continue to adding to the price of groceries or any kind of consumable that you purchase, that's made with eggs. So we'd like to see us get rid of the grocery tax. I think that's one way of putting some money back in people's pockets. There's been a few bills out there to try to eliminate the taxes on feminine hygiene products. This has proven successful in several other states. I'm not an expert in that area, but many of the people in the caucus believe that it's something good. I see it being beneficial, especially to poor women. Okay, so I would like to see something like that done if we could. The big thing, though, that we're working on is we're looking at childcare, and we believe that there may be a pathway to doing something about childcare within the House within the next 2 years. And specifically, we like to point to the Speaker of the House, Dean Plocker, when he gave his acceptance speech. He talked about childcare and the need for it in our state. Now, one of the things, as we all know, is childcare can be a barrier for adults to get to employment. When you look at the cost of childcare, wow, it's so astronomical. I mean, you're going to work to pay for childcare. It makes no sense. So it becomes a barrier. And so we'd like to, with some of this money we have a $6 billion surplus in the budget. And we'd like to see some of that money go into childcare credits, trying to do something to help the working parents in Missouri. And that's why we say we want to invest in Missourians. We're looking at things like various workforce programs, okay, work training programs. We want Missourians to have an opportunity to earn more money. Right now, we just have this huge surplus of money. I think there's a lot of good ideas out there of how to spend the money or where to put it. I'd like to hear more of the ideas. I don't want to be in a rush to spend this money. I'm somewhat of a fiscal conservative when it comes to that, but I definitely want to see it spent, and I want to see a huge portion of it go back to Missouri people. So I don't know if I'm supposed to continue. I see Paula kind of reaching for the computer. I was answering your question there. I don't know if you had anything else you'd like to add.
Couple things. The other thing that we want to do is try to get some of the foreign companies out of the business of farming and owning big industry in Missouri. That's something that is on our radar at this point as well. When you talk about protecting democracy, we certainly want to stop the initiative petition changes. We want to protect public education because public education was created to support democracy. And childcare, Richard's right. Childcare is going to be a focus for everyone on the floor. Everyone can agree that childcare prices are high. We don't have enough spaces, so we're going to be doing everything we can to eliminate that barrier from folks who want to go out and work and not have to put their whole paycheck, like Richard said, into their daycare. I saw somebody the other day who said they were spending 3 kids. They were spending like $500 a week. That's more than my house payment at the end of the month. So I don't know how they're doing it, and I don't think they should have to do it. So we'll be working hard on that one. I'm not sure, Harvey, what else would you like to know?
Well, I do want to ask you this, Paula, because this week I think the hot topic coming out of Jefferson City has been about Sweatergate. I'm sure everybody out here knows what I'm referring to when I say Sweatergate. And so, as I have explained to members of the press when they reached out to me about a comment, I really feel that this is an issue that our women legislators need to be taking the forefront on. And I was wondering if you could just share a little insight from your opinion.
So when we saw the original amendment come to the floor, I was beside myself, to be perfectly honest, because I wear cardigans most of the time. A structured jacket for someone who's built like I am is uncomfortable at best. It's also wickedly expensive to get a good structured jacket. So we talked to some folks. Brenda Shields made some changes to the amendment or offered an amendment to the amendment to relax some of those things. But at the end of the day, I am not quite sure why we were wasting our time on it. There are important things to take care of in this state. And it's not what kind of jacket I wear or what kind of jacket any other female legislator wears on that floor. Everyone, to my knowledge, has always been dressed appropriately. Their shoulders are covered. So I'm not sure why we got in this conversation to begin with. And then it just went south when they opened it up. So I think it was a bizarre start to a year. Rules should just not be that controversial, for the lack of a better word. But I think we'll be okay. I don't know who's going to challenge them or what that challenge might look like, but I'm a little embarrassed that we made it to national news about sweaters and jackets. So that's my 2 cents on that.
For those who don't know, Sweatergate is, there's always been a dress code for men, basically a tie and jacket is my understanding. And now they have imposed a dress code for women, which is, hey, go ahead, Paula, please.
Actually, there's been a dress code for women all along as well. And it was always, you could wear a jacket, a cardigan, some kind of appropriate wear like a jacket over maybe a sleeveless dress or a shell of some kind, but it was more like you had to have 2 layers like the gentleman had. We've had that for a while, but all of a sudden it came up, we wanted to get really stringent and tight on it, and I'm not sure why. I've asked, somebody tried to explain it to me that some people showed up last year not looking appropriate. I guess, for those of us who come from the professional world anyway, we've always been dressed appropriately. I never saw anything that I felt was inappropriate, but all of a sudden it was a thing and we had to tighten it up. So we had to take what dress code we had and make it even more stringent. And for all of us who are built differently, and I know men are built differently, but they have suits to accommodate that. It's difficult for the women's wear to accommodate some of those things. So I don't know what we were doing. Sorry, Harvey. I just wanted everybody to know there was one before.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you.
So let me chime in on that very quickly. Where I stood on that was I was just very concerned that this was another example of someone trying to take away a woman's right to choose in some form or fashion. That was the concern that I had. I have always felt that the women representatives on our floor have always been dressed appropriately. As Representative Brown pointed out, that there was a dress code of sorts. There is no dress code this strict in the Senate. And so again, I trust that our women can, the women representatives can make their choice as to what they choose to wear. Folks dress for comfort, and I'm not the fashion police. I don't know about fashion, but there it is. The circus has come to town, and we're off to a hefty start in Jefferson City.
I think men should take hats off.
Okay. Sorry, Harvey, we couldn't hear you. We're breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you guys have more you want to talk about, or would you like to take questions? We have a question on the floor.
We can take questions. Like I said, I'm happy to be here. And who's first?
Richard, go ahead. I'm sorry, Edward Rich, go ahead.
This is nothing against Richard, but I think men ought to take their hats off when they're in the house.
So I definitely understand that. And so let me explain the hat. This is
no, you're fine. You're fine. You're at home. I meant when they go to work. I mean, the military, you always took your hat off.
But listen, I'm glad that came up because people like to ask about the hats. So, and I like to talk about the hat. So thanks for bringing it up. I'll take advantage of this. Okay, I'm an opportunist. So this hat is starting to become one of the most recognized hats in the state of Missouri. Okay, everywhere I go, people, they remember me now because of the beard and the hat. Okay, I mean, I've met some of these folks I've met 10 times. They didn't remember who I was. But now that I have the hat and the beard, they remember who I am. I was in Brookfield, Missouri. I was with Trudy Bush Valentine. I walk into a room and somebody says, "Hey, Rich." And then next thing he says, "Where's the hat?" And then 2 days later, same thing happened to me in St. Joe. So I go everywhere with this now, and a lot of people recognize me. And if that helps, so that I can get the message of Democrats out there and people realize that they're seeing me over and over and over again, I'll wear the hat. And that's the story.
Excellent. I think we have another question on the floor. Sherry?
Hi. I had a question for Paula. I am planning to go to Jefferson City on Wednesday to the education hearing. And I just wondered if Paula has any advice, thoughts, recommendations.
I am hoping to go to the hearing as well. I would take copious notes. It's the first one out of the gates, and hopefully we'll get a good sense of how things are going to go this year. I do believe we're hearing, or they are hearing, the Senate is hearing. All of a sudden the bill went out of my head, but it's one of the Parent Bill of Rights bills, I believe. I don't know if you're allowed to ask questions in the Senate, to be honest, or to testify. I'm sure you can testify, but I don't know, since I don't know what the bill is. Just take copious notes. If you have feelings, like in the House, when you come to our hearings, you can put testimony online and that becomes a matter of public record. So I would check to see if you can do the same thing in the House. I mean, in the Senate, my apologies.
Okay.
Putting it online is it's great because I go read all of it in the House. So
I've done that. At the Senate, I don't think you can. I think you have to go in person.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, they may
Or
let
at
you
least
fill
that
out
was last
something.
year.
Okay, will they let you fill out something?
I don't know. I haven't asked.
Okay, check on that
But I
too.
will.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
We have another question from Dave and Dale.
Yeah, you were talking before about cutting or eliminating the sales tax. And in this area, we pay about 9 or 10% sales tax on various things. Most of that is local. I'm wondering what percent of the sales tax is state. And is that the only part that you can eliminate, is the state sales tax? I don't think you can eliminate the local and county, can you?
No, we wouldn't be able to eliminate the local. It would just be the state portion of the tax.
And what is that?
I don't have the specific number.
It's only around 3 or 4%, I think. But
Yeah, I know it's still a significant number, but I can't recall it right off the top of my head.
okay, thank you.
Excellent. And Barbara Harris, do you have a question?
Hi, yes. What can the state legislature do to make childcare more affordable? I mean, it's a vital thing to do, but how would you go? What kind of laws would you create, or how would you go about doing that?
So I haven't seen the specific bills yet, but I know that we have the $6 billion surplus in the budget. And so, the idea is looking at giving the tax credit of some kind. I'm not sure of all the ways that they will go about trying to do this. But like I said, we're very hopeful right now because, the Speaker of the House has shown a willingness to do this. Now, I don't know, Representative Brown, have you heard anything? Do you have a site on your radar?
So the biggest conversation I've heard is tax credits to those folks who maybe have a certain income level, have so many children in daycare, something to help them out and pay those bills. That's all I've heard so far because, you know, we've just gotten into session there. Everybody was so busy running for office that I don't know that we've had a whole lot of time to think and talk about what some real solutions are going to be. So I believe Richard's right that the tax credit is where we're going to start.
And I have a question speaking about taxes. I don't know if you're aware of the recent TIF that was passed in Chesterfield. 353, ready for this, $1 million TIF to develop downtown Chesterfield, which means in order to get the TIF, it had to be blighted, declared blighted. This is the old Chesterfield Mall and areas around it. One of the areas that's included in this TIF is an area that's already under construction with $1 million plus homes. They're putting in a total of 3,000 units. If you do the math, that's a subsidy of $100,000 per unit going into this area. Okay, so that's obviously not what TIFs were meant for, in my opinion. But what's interesting about it is the funding for the TIF is actually coming out of Parkway and Rockwood school districts. There's apparently a state law that allows municipalities to do that. Chesterfield does not directly have its own property tax, and told is one of the reasons why they had to do it this way. But I think maybe someone needs to look into the idea that a municipality can divert school funds and give it away as a TIF. It just doesn't make sense. But that is what happened here in Chesterfield about a month ago.
Harvey, I will look into that and get back with you. I'll
I do
send you
appreciate
a
that.
written message that you will be able to share with everyone.
It feels very abusive, and I'd love to see the Attorney General or someone bring a lawsuit against them. I mean, it just seems wrong.
Well,
$353 million, and Parkway School District and Rockwood were vehemently against it, but they also said, as I talked to some of the individuals in the school district, that they, as school district members, are not allowed to lobby. They can't, they had to kind of watch what they said and how public they were in their opposition.
That is true. They could have lobbied through an organization, but that gets a little sticky too. Harvey, let me investigate this and I'll get back with you, okay?
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, we have in the chat, we have a rather long statement, and I think there may be a question in here from Nancy Hirsch. With money surplus, childcare, especially for lower income adults, probably is a top choice. No taxes on food. Generally top choices for issues is to protect the ballot initiative and do what we can to address voting restrictions that were previously approved. That's a question. Can we do something to help with voting restrictions? Moreover, keeping further book bans out of Missouri, that would also be important. Thank you, Richard Brown and Paula Brown, for your service. With boundary changes, Paula, you are now my rep.
Thanks, Nancy. Nancy, you can always reach out to me if you'd like to talk individually with me about some things that needed to be addressed. The book banning, I don't know if you all saw my post on Facebook. I support it. I put it out there when Ashcroft was trying to make the rule change on public libraries. That did not impact school libraries. And we are now talking to superintendents, and I say people in the education community are talking to different superintendents saying, hey, that's not what the law says. And the rule change from Ashcroft does not come from, that doesn't affect public schools. But I will tell you that law change, I think we generated a lot of comments when I put out there how many days were left for the public comments section. I don't believe that censorship is the way to go. I do believe that parents should have some say-so over what their children read, but that's not an adult to an adult conversation. And that's not what librarians do. So hopefully we will calm the waters on that one and have less book banning going on.
Excellent. And would either of you like to comment on voter suppression?
Richard?
So it was very interesting. I had a town hall back in October where Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, he attended, and everything went well during the town hall where he talked about voter ID and the new voter laws in the state of Missouri until about 10 minutes before it was over. He mentioned that there were about 10,000 cases of voter fraud in the state of Missouri. And I couldn't believe it. You know, he believes that. So, wow. You know, they passed this law with the voter ID. I think we can get through that. I don't like it. We know that the courts, they have struck it down in the past. I know we were going through elections. I think it went back to the courts, but I don't really know where we are with that at this point. You know, the ballot initiative is the big thing right now. You know, Republicans, they want to significantly increase the number of signatures that are required on the ballot initiative. We know that we have gotten some of the things that we want to see happen passed because of the ballot initiative, like Medicaid expansion. Now, we fought for years to try to get Medicaid expanded in the state of Missouri, and only because of the initiative process did that happen. We were able to keep right to work out of Missouri, protect those good union jobs, only because of the ballot initiative. You had folks in some of these Republican districts who voted for those Republicans who in higher numbers voted to keep Missouri as, keep right to work out of Missouri. So, they sent a clear message with this ballot initiative. And of course, we have medicinal and recreational marijuana because of that as well. The one thing I like to caution Republicans on is that one day they are going to be in the minority. We know these things come in waves. They are going to be in the minority. And one day, the ballot initiative process may be the only way for them to pass a conservative measure. So they need to think about that, think about what it is that they're doing. And so that's, one of the things that I talked about when I said we were going to try to protect democracy, in Missouri. Is, that is a right that people have. And, it seems like the state has been in the trend lately to take away rights that folks have. And we want to try to protect those.
Harvey?
Yes.
I saw something from, I believe it was Jim Usry about St. Charles taking away property taxes, and how would the public services be funded? So education, fire, EMS, police, and a couple other services, how would they be funded? They don't have a plan on how to fund it. They really believe that real estate taxes will catch up enough that they'll be able to backload it with real estate taxes. At this rate, real estate taxes are on the rise to a level where we have some of our seniors losing their homes. So I frankly think that they don't really have a plan. And I'm not sure that the people who are pushing this, because it's not all Republicans, but I don't know that the people who are pushing this really care if they have a plan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we've really got to do something about these real estate taxes. The concern that I have is I have a lot of seniors in my district who worked all their lives, they paid off their houses, and come November, they get this huge tax bill. And they were so accustomed to having their taxes built into their house payment, but it's just a shock that they get this bill. And then over the last couple of years, some of them have seen increases and some have been very significant increases. Now, I do know that one of my colleagues, Representative Robert Sauls out of Independence, he had a proposal that would have grandfathered seniors in. And I don't know all the specifics. I'm not that kind of a numbers guy, but it sounded like it was something to look into. There's a Republican, Jeff Coleman, out of Green Valley, Representative Coleman. He had a plan, but I know he was at odds at one point with the assessor in Jackson County. So I'm not really sure the dynamic of it, but there is concern at the legislature to look at doing something with property taxes. And, the idea of grandfathering in seniors and capping it, I think that may be a popular train of thought. As I tell folks though, and I admitted to you when I got on the call earlier this evening, I said, I'm a fiscal conservative. We have folks down there that are trying to float the idea, and when I say folks, Republicans that are floating the idea of eliminating the personal property tax. And I get it. It sounds great, but if you do that, where's the money going to come from that you need? Because the next step I see happening is, okay, you get rid of that property tax, but you will significantly increase the cost of registering a vehicle in the state of Missouri. Somehow they're going to make that money up, and I have to remind people that $6 billion surplus we have, that's a one-time deal. And we're looking at trying to implement programs that are permanent, and we have to be able to fund these. Okay, we have to be able to fund these programs. We can't just say, okay, here it is, we got $6 billion and walk away from it. And then, the future legislatures are left holding the bag on this one. We can't do that. We have to look at this. I'm not the person that knows all the numbers, as I said, but I'm someone that's willing to sit down and look and, try to figure out what makes sense for Missouri.
Thank you. Edward, do you have your hand up again? Another question?
Yeah, I have a problem with the last couple of years. I've tried to work with Derek here, Grier, who was supposedly my representative, and
Edward, can you get closer to the mic or something? You're breaking up.
I'm sorry.
That's better.
And David Sanchez, or whatever his name is, was my congressman, I guess, or a senator rather. And I want to know what I have a problem with the way that Schultz changed the way that you get rid of own problems with people all these unsolicited calls we're getting and stuff. They're not getting them in other states. He's just not doing anything. Well, all you can do is go online and put a thing in, and they never tell you what's going on with it. And so I asked both my representatives, I want to know how much money is there in the budget, in his budget, in Schultz's budget. And both of them came back and said, he won't tell us. It's a secret. Basically, you can't talk to anyone.
So I think I think your question is there something that can be done about all the spam calls? Is that what you're asking?
No, is there something that can be done with getting the program to get rid of the spam calls back to where it used to be, and it was taken care of? You got a response, and all of a sudden they quit. And they just don't do it anymore. They haven't done it in the last couple of years. They just dropped the program. They put a fake program up on the internet.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the representatives, but I think part of the issue is a lot of these calls are coming from overseas, so it's hard to stop them.
It's funny. They get rid of them in other states, though.
I don't know.
You can't tell me that we're different.
Yeah,
we're just a red state that doesn't want to do anything to businesses that do this stuff.
I don't know anything as far as other states. It's been about, I guess it's been about 3 or 4 years now. Then I spoke with one of the chairmen of the FCC. I had opportunity to speak with, and that was the thing that I discussed with them. And as was pointed out, part of the problem is that these calls are coming from overseas. I know that the phone companies, they've reached out to the phone companies. I don't know if it's in the form of a mandate or anything, but they're supposed to be coming up with some type of technology to block that, because I want you to know, Edward, I get them too. Okay, I get
you're in
by my house.
You're in Missouri. Missouri's an open state. They're allowed to do it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean,
they're not doing it other places.
Listen, I'll agree with you. Two things that get on my nerves in this state is the number of robocalls and all the expired temporary plates that I see on the back of cars. I saw one today that was about 1.5 years old.
Well, the plates I don't know about, but the calls, because I'm in IT and I know that other places are taking care of these things. And I know that, I mean, I wanted to know how much money is allocated in his budget for this, because he's not doing anything with it, zero. And I just want to know, I mean, and those are the kind of things I think is wrong. And the other thing is they just changed the way you report in, you pay your sales tax. And I have a business and I have a sale, and and I spent 5 hours trying to, there's nobody that will answer anything. Okay, you have to do it all online. And their whole program is they got it fixed up so you can't see the password you're putting in, and you can on other programs, but not on the sales tax. And you can't, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's stupid. And I know I'm a computer person and I couldn't do it. I know that other people are having problems, but you just can't do anything with, they don't want to talk to you. The thing is, they want to get rid of all their communication directly with the customers, with us, with the voters. We're not allowed to call them. We're not allowed to get any response back. I call them, I get some intern, and all he can say is, well, we'll look into it. And I had this one guy, after about 10 phone calls, he knew who I was. He just said, you know what? The Attorney General and Secretary of State, neither one will talk to us, tell us anything about it. It's secret. And they said, we can't do anything about it, so just don't call us anymore. And that's the answer from my government. Now, I mean, I just ended up paying, I pay sales tax, I'm paying my housing tax, and I never get, unfortunately, I never get the people elected that I work for, that I really think will do something. And it's just a hard thing. And then here they're worried about things like taking care of what women are wearing. Oh, come on. Yeah. Let's get this thing working like a regular state. It's just strange.
Thank you, Edward. I think
I'm
we
sorry.
all got I think we all get the point. No, that's interesting. I actually have a question. I raised my hand to get into the queue. There's talk about expanding the tax credit voucher program, which my understanding is basically, I don't know if it's diverting funds from public schools, but it is using taxpayer dollars to fund private schools. I'm wondering if representatives would like to speak to that.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Representative Brown. She's worked intimately with this. In fact, I know the charter school people are lining up for this one because they have contacted me and they told me one story, and I guess it was different from what they apparently had told Representative Brown. So I don't know where we're headed with this. I've always voted against vouchers because I believe that they hurt traditional public education. I'm a retired teacher myself, and I always let folks know that I was a vice president of welfare for the Kansas City Federation of Teachers for a few years, and I was a buildings representative for a number of years. And so, pretty much I have always voted against any type of expansion of charter schools or the use of state money in a voucher program. But Representative Brown, she's worked very closely on this, so I'm just going to defer to her.
Okay, so yeah, ESAs is they call it an educational savings account. So people can donate money into the account, and then the kids get students get scholarships. And then when they get the scholarship, I'm gonna be honest, I think it's the donors, but I'm not sure. They get big tax credits for state taxes.
Yeah, the
So-
donor gets I believe it's
Right.
100% tax credit for whatever they put in.
Yes, so right now, in the first year of the program, it helped 1,000 students. Now, let me be clear. There are 900,000 kids going to school this year. It helped 1,000. The money that was capped at could help up to 8,000. So they didn't reach their potential to helping the 8,000 kids. And now they want to expand and allow more money. They want to expand it to allow higher income families to use it. So what's going to end up happening if we expand this program and we expand up to higher level incomes, that means folks who are already sending their kids to private schools or charter schools. Charter schools, they don't have to pay for anyway. So the private schools, we're going to start funding people who already have made the choice to send their kids to private schools. Their kid had been in private schools their whole life. Now they're going to get it on taxpayer money. It's a roundabout taxpayer money. It's just a scheme. So there are bills to get rid of the income cap. There is bills to get rid of the donation cap. And there's bills out there to extend the tax credit cap. I anticipate that we'll see all three, and I would be surprised if all three of them did not pass, to be perfectly honest. They believe that it creates competition in school. I've had these conversations with them. I keep asking, what do they want to compete for? What is the competition piece of learning? And they're like, well, we want everybody to learn. I was like, then what are we competing for? And I ended my statements to them with, if you're going to have people compete, untie the hands of public school teachers so they have the ability to compete with other schools and teachers who don't have their hands tied by all the regulations that public schools have. That is generating some interest, I will say that, but I'm a little worried about the voucher program, especially now that Ohio has come out. I think it was Ohio that's come out and said, it's going to make us go broke. So as right now, it should come out of the general tax credits, come out of the general fund. But the minute we have to do tax cuts, education, K-12 and higher ed are the first two groups to get cut when it comes to revenue sources. So it's a long roundabout answer, Harvey, but I could probably talk about this for 2 hours, and we don't want to do that tonight.
Yeah, I just sent you an email with an article. Looks like it probably was in the Post-Dispatch. It's hard for me to tell where it originated from, the way it was sent to me. But it talks about Representative Josh Hurlbut, Hurlbert, out of Smithville.
Yep, Hurlbert. And
yeah, that apparently he works for the, I'm going to use quotes, I'm going to call it a charity. They don't call it that. The foundation. He works for the foundation that got
Herzog Foundation.
Yeah, they got the majority of the vouchers,
Scholarships.
and then yeah, and then they distribute them out, I guess, and they get to keep 10% of the money, is what it says here. But it's interesting that yeah. Anyway, interesting issue. Are there any other questions? Just you can just speak up, unmute, and kind of shout out.
Well, if no one has a question, let me go right into sports betting. It's coming. Okay, we've already started having discussions at the House amongst our caucus, and we've been reaching across the aisle, kind of talking with some of the bill sponsors and getting ready for this. I think it's going to come up very soon in the House. Kansas recently adopted sports betting, and the pressure that's being put on right now is the possibility of maybe the Chiefs building a new stadium in the state of Kansas. Now, we did see the Kansas City Wizards, who are now known as Sporting Kansas City, the soccer team, build their new stadium on the Kansas side, right next to the NASCAR track that we lost as well. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Royals, all the professional sports teams in Kansas City are behind this. The kind of the holdup right now are the VLTs, the video lottery terminals. Those are those little gaming terminals that you see at the gas station and the quickie marts. Currently, those are not really regulated by the state. There are state laws about them, but there's a loophole that allows them to operate in the state of Missouri. And so the folks that run the VLTs, they want this stuff legalized as well as this sports gambling. But you got to understand, sports gambling people are the folks that own the casinos. And the casinos don't want to see the VLTs because the VLT is competition to their slot machines, okay? So just kind of give you a very simple view of what's happening here, okay? In my mind, if they're gonna legalize one, they might as well legalize the other one. The VLTs are here, they're here. This is about greed, okay? When you're talking about protecting the slot machines, it's about greed, in my opinion. You know, if you're gonna have these machines, either they're gonna be legal or they're gonna be illegal and you get rid of them, okay? That's just the way I feel about it, but I do believe that sports betting will pass in the state of Missouri so that not only can you walk into the casino, we'll have to pass a special piece of legislation so that you can use your phone app for folks like DraftKings to be able to place a sports bet.
If I can elaborate a little bit on the VLTs, the video lottery, whatever they are, I heard an extensive debate on them. For folks that don't know, you find them mostly at gas stations, and a lot of them are at their truck stops. And games of chance in the state of Missouri are supposed to come under the Gaming Commission. And the folks who are running these things say they're not really games of chance. And here's why, which is really a weird way that they got around it, but here's how creative people can be. And if you don't all start laughing, I'm going to be surprised. When you pull the lever, when you're done, it comes up and it tells you what the next pull will be. So it says, oh, the next pull is going to lose. So you put your money in, you pull the lever, and you're hoping that it's going to say the next pull is going to win. And then you put your money in, and well, you win. And folks are saying, well, therefore, it's not a game of chance, because you know what that next pull is going to give you. Isn't that crazy? A crazy way to get around the law. And in the debate, when someone said, yeah, but it is still a game of chance because you don't know how much you're going to win when it says you're going to win, which I thought was an interesting rebuttal. But yeah, it's a big issue, and they're trying to tie it to the sports betting bill. I don't know what happened to our hard right Christian majority folks, because I thought they were all against gambling and betting, and I remember how hard it was to get the casinos in. And now all of a sudden it seems like they want to have all this other betting stuff going on, sports betting, because all the states around us are doing it. Well, okay, how about women's rights, women's health care? All the other states around us are doing that too, and we're not. So I think you hear my point. But it's really weird how they got around these things with telling you what the next poll is going to be. It's absolutely. I'm sorry, but I got to give them some credit somewhere for figuring that out. But it's really a nasty way to get around the system and not being regulated by the Gambling Commission, which is really dangerous, having gambling out there that's not regulated. They may as well be in some back alley. That's how people get ripped off. But in any case, any other questions?
And let me just add into that, at the top of the meeting, I had said there were 3 things that we were working on, which was to improve the lives of Missourians, in which we talked about childcare and workforce development. We said we were going to defend democracy, where we talked about the ballot initiative process. But the third thing that also said we were going to try to do and work on is to save lives. And that deals with our gun legislation. We have some good common sense gun legislation. Like myself, I have 2 pieces that I've been filing for years. One is House Bill 32, which simply says that if you are convicted of domestic abuse, you cannot own a firearm in the state of Missouri. Now, it's very simple because all it does is mirror federal law. Federal law already says that. The thing is, because it's not a state law, let's say if you were someone convicted of domestic abuse, you had a firearm, the highway patrol or local police, they couldn't arrest you for that, okay? Because it's not a state charge, it's a federal charge. They have to actually call a federal marshal to come and arrest you for something like that, okay? The other bill that I have proposed is to repeal the law that will not allow local municipalities to enact their own gun legislation. The reason why I filed that was former Mayor Lyda Cruson had came to me, as well as current Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas. They asked for this, because they like to just do some simple common sense things. Like in Missouri, all you have to do is be 19 and you can have a concealed weapon with no permit. Okay. All we're asking is something like in Kansas City and St. Louis, say that you got to be 21 to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Okay. It's something that just makes sense. There were some proposed legislation that had it been enacted upon, many people feel that the tragedy that occurred at the school in St. Louis could have been averted. But even when calls were made to try to get help for that young man, they were told that they couldn't because of the way the law was, or there was nothing provided in the law for them to provide this support. So our members are working on that, and those are some of the things that we will be working on for this upcoming session.
A noble effort, indeed. Any other questions, comments? I've always had one on the gun issue when Missouri made it legal to basically get a gun license without any training. The folks who do bother to get licensed nowadays, because you really don't need to, is my understanding. I was wondering what that did to the states that we have reciprocity with, because if those states require training to get a concealed carry license and we don't, then did we lose our reciprocity with those states?
Now, I'm sorry, that I don't know. I'm not well versed in a lot of those gun laws. I'm not a gun owner. But I'm just saddened that, and I'm not against people owning guns. I understand why people have to have a firearm, I just want people to be responsible with the guns that they have, and that we're passing responsible gun legislation. I was, the Republicans, I like to kind of sometimes rub their nose in the dirt, because I was the guy that was leading the charge on banning bump stocks in Missouri, after the incident in Las Vegas. And it fell on deaf ears, but you all know who banned bump stocks in the United States, don't you? President Donald J. Trump. So I'm glad he agreed with me. Trump agreed with me. We needed to ban bump stocks. They were a bad thing.
For an hour, he agrees with you.
I'll never agree with Trump, but he agreed with me.
But he changes his mind a lot.
We need to get you one of those knitted pillows with a saying on it.
Oh, I don't want that pillow. I'll never sleep at night.
Supreme Court threw it out. They said Trump didn't have the authority to do it.
Oh, I didn't hear that one. I did not know that one. Oh, well, I guess Richard Brown got to come back to work on that then.
Do you think we will ever be able to overturn this thing about the local authorities not being able to work with federal authorities when there's guns involved?
you know, that's going to be an issue for the courts. The SAPA, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, that's the most asinine piece of legislation next to, what was that, Senate Bill 42, where it protected folks from racial discrimination suits, and the guy who brought the lawsuit was being sued under that current law that he was trying to change. Okay.
Okay.
Those are the shenanigans that go on down under the big top in Jeff City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't see a lot of other questions. So I think if you guys have any particular courses of action that you would recommend that our people take to help improve our state of Missouri or our federal government or just our country in general, if you guys have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share or words of action that you'd like to see us take.
Just be involved. Be involved. There are so many people who take inaction is why we're losing. As Democrats, you know, we have to be more vocal. We have to be out there. As elected officials, we have to get our base excited. You know, like I said, I'm going out to rural areas. I'll be in Chillicothe on the 28th of January. I'm going up there for a meeting. I've done a lot of outreach to folks across the state. There's another rural group that's down by Cole County that wants to get together and meet. And that includes 4 counties. And so that's why I was really excited about being here on this call with you guys in Creve Coeur tonight. Because again, you know, I'm from Kansas City. I want an opportunity to get to know as many people across the state because we got a message. I think it's a pretty good message, but it doesn't do us any good as Democrats if we don't get it out there.
Well,
Enjoyed meeting you.
Representative Brown, Richard Brown, you know, Paula Brown as our local representative is always invited to our meetings and always welcome. I would like to extend that same invitation to you. We meet the third Monday of every month, and I will put you on our invitation list. Please don't feel obliged to attend, but we're more than happy to give you a few minutes at the beginning of every meeting if you would like to, you know, give us some ideas of what's going on around the state. I think it is very important that we do that. The other thing that I would be interested in just kind of throwing out there to you, since we are doing the majority of our meetings on Zoom, if you have another local club in that area that you think we might be compatible with, it would be interesting to have a couple of joint meetings just to cross-pollinate and to find out what other people around the state are thinking. So kind of give that one a little bit of thought if you would, and I know you know how to contact me. I would like to see, I'd love to do that. Have a little bit more conversation across the state.
Well, that's great, Harvey. I accept your invitation because that's exactly what I've been trying to do. I've been going all over the place, and now I'm trying to connect all the dots. Okay, get us all engaged with one another, get to know each other across the state. We in Missouri, as a lot of you have come to recognize, we really don't have a real infrastructure when it comes to all of our Democratic clubs and organizations across the state. And you know, I realized that when I was going out there, and I'm like, hey, we know these folks. We need to go out there, make the connection. That's why I said I'm wearing the hat so that everybody remembers me, okay? So that you know that I'm working. Because listen, 2024, the road to 2024 already started back on November 9th. For folks who don't realize that, okay? We already have a U.S. Senate candidate, Lucas Kuntz, okay? He's already announced, and he's already out there. Okay, we got other candidates that are getting ready to come forward when we talk about our state races. Okay, and then, you know, as Representative Paula Brown knows, on November the 9th, her bid for her next term had already begun. Okay, so, you know, let's all get engaged. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to coming back and getting to know you. And I hope to be able to come and, you know, to some function and get to know some of you personally. And you're always invited to come down and see us in the Capitol. We'd love to have you there.
Thank you. Paula, you have any closing comments?
To speak to your question, online testimony is going to be really important this year. So fill out online testimony when there's something you know about or feel strongly about. When you write to us, don't write a form letter. A lot of folks will just go, oh, it's that form letter, and not really pay attention. But if you give a few sentences, a small paragraph with data and feelings about a topic, they will watch that, they will look at that, they will listen to that. That's the best way to go. I am very excited to hear that y'all are interested in having some co-meetings with local township Democrat clubs across the state. I have been to some of the Democrat club meetings. I got to go to Versailles this past summer. Didn't know that Versailles had a Democrat club, but they were pretty active and involved, and so it would be great if we could get more clubs working together. So Harvey, I'd love to work with you on that, and I know that Richard will give us a hand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. And also, as you know, I'm involved with the Gateway Democrats too, and it would be great to maybe expand that platform as well. But absolutely, let's do that. I think it's really important. There are many Democrats in Missouri, and I think a lot of them just feel like they're the only kid on their block, and that's just not true. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of us, and we need to make it comfortable for people to get involved and to meet their neighbors.
I agree. To my assistant, minority floor leader, Richard Brown. He's an excellent floor leader, always steps in when Crystal can't be there, runs the floor beautifully, does a great job with all of his work across the state. I want to thank him for being here. He's a true ally and friend, and I appreciate that.
Excellent. We did have one late question come in. What about the movement to return control of St. Louis City Police to whomever, I guess, to the state? Is there a threat of that happening?
Yes, there is. They went after it last year, and they're going to go again. As a matter of fact, I thought I saw a bill.
Has anyone told them that the Civil War is over? They don't have to worry about the armed St. Louis police force anymore?
They still want to try and run it again, I think.
They do. And I will tell you that in Kansas City, they were going after their budget and doing some other things, telling the city what they could and couldn't do with their police budget. So I'm going to say to you that our two big cities, our economic drivers in Missouri, we're going to be talking about those police forces probably quite a bit. And that's unnerving to me, because local politics should stay local, period.
Yeah, what happened to the Republican mantra of local control?
It doesn't exist.
Only when it's convenient for them.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Any other questions? This was great. You guys, nice wrap up. I will also open the floor to anyone who has any more announcements. Hearing none. Thank you, Representative Brown and Representative Brown.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. Thank you to all of our attendees, and also to my co-conspirator on this stuff, Sydney Jackson, president of the Creve Coeur Township Club. And with that, hearing no one else, I'm going to just go to the gallery view here just for a second, make sure no one has their hand raised. And with that, I think we will sign off and call it an evening. See you guys in a month.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
One quick announcement. I am in the process of putting together elections for the Maryland Heights Township Club. So if anyone's interested in serving on the board, we have a couple of open positions. So please get in touch with me. And with that, Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Night.
Bye, thanks.